loyalty among only children. Most retention techniques you have described are useful so long as the stock keeps rising and the perks are unique. What longer-term approaches are you taking? And you may also want to comment on the premise. Jia-Bin.
You know, it's not so serious as a one-children problem in China. Basically, they still depends on how you cultivate the way they work in a company. For instance, like the Microsoft and Cisco, we definitely aware that the curriculum inside the school is not good enough for employee to after graduate they can start to work with a multinational company like Microsoft and Cisco. But it also a very good opportunity for company like Microsoft and Cisco to go into college or go into university to provide some courseware or curriculums that they can start to educate those students from their last 2 years or last 1 year when they are still at school, and working with the school authorities to facilitate the student to get an easy approach to find a job after they graduate. So it's kind of a situation that you can complain about the market is not mature or good enough, but it's also offer opportunities for you to find a way to create the best opportunity for your company. And you all understand the market is like that, and how can you change the situation? You cannot change the situation, but you always have to find a way to help your company, to help your business, to run and to grow it. And you have to deal with it. So, the one kid situation, probably you want to back to complain about why Mao Zedong make that kind of decision back to many years ago. But it's impossible and without complaint, so what you can do is to just take the opportunity to train up what you can get out of that market.
I think there is a perception of when I've talked to university students getting ready to graduate, they'll say, I'm going to have 3 jobs in the next 5 years. If you're the hiring manager, you think, gee, do I really want to hire this person? But you can also build organizations. At one point, I was running a company, and for 5 years, I had no turnover, and I had 25 managers reporting to me. I think it really goes back. Kai-Fu, I think, gave a great example of what he did on hiring, the manager's involvement with the people and building a team that's people want to be a part of that team.
2 comments on this question. First of all, and this is based on my personal experience in actually talking to real students making real decisions, and probably the top end of the talent pool. First comment I would make is I would compare them very much to the professionals I used to see coming out of the American graduate schools to come work at Goldman Sachs. And I used to say about the type A's at Goldman Sachs that they exist on this very tight plane up here. On one side of the plane is complacency and arrogance. On the other side is insecurity and paranoia. And the trick is to kind of stay up here and not to fall too much this way or that way. Now, in China, I see exactly the same thing, and I see it in an exaggerated form. So on the one hand, you have the reality of the situation, which is this war on talent obviously leads to these very talented people coming out of school with all sorts of opportunity, not quite sure which way to turn, and it's not so easy to get great advice. On the other hand, if you ask them, well, why are they consciously say, well, I would like to go work for a multinational for 3 to 5 to 7 years to be trained. So why are you thinking about it that way? Well, they have a myriad of reasons, but one of the reasons is because they don't trust the multinational with their career path. And by and large, they're right not to trust it. So part of my message would be most of the multinationals, and there are some exceptions, do not do a very good job. And by the way, this is not distinct to their business in China. Do not do a very good job at managing the careers of cultures outside the national culture from which they come. And the Chinese pick up on this right away, and so they say it's a great training ground, and they'll go on. Of course, for them, even the better news story is if they go on, of course, there's all sorts of opportunity. So you can understand that this is not irrational behavior. This is very rational, and I don't think it's distinct to the fact that this is just one-child families. Okay. Kai-Fu. Another question, something you commented on, but maybe you can do it in a bit more depth. Okay. This question of the education system, the sort of doctrinaire quality of it, the inflexible quality of it. can it really produce graduates who can be creative, think out of the box, and so on?
Right. So the Chinese university system is still transitioning. I think they very much see the American university system as a model. But today, as John said, I think more courses are still taught in the professor talks, everybody takes notes mode. I see a couple of promising signs. One is that there are quite a few returnees who are very young professors, and they're very hands-on. They're in the computer science area. They're still writing computer programs. They are almost like a big brother or sister to their students. They're very close. They work together. I think the more those returnees start to go back, I think that will be a big help. In terms of creativity, I think that there are a couple of ways in which creative things have come out of universities. One is just because they have a very good professor, usually a very good young returnee professor who gave them great ideas and they work together. Another kind is they have an elderly, great scholar, gentlemanly, perhaps not as hands-on, but really empowering professor who will give them the some high-level guidance, and the students will probe and try out things, and they often have good results there. The third area is where a student finds a summer internship at a company like Microsoft or Google and gets great ideas from working there, and those ideas sometimes become very good theses. So I think that's definitely growing, but certainly today it's still at a substantially lower level in terms of creativity compared to American schools. So for the people that we hire, even though they're already top of the top, sometimes we still think they have a little bit of lack of confidence that they too can be creative. I think they know they're the best in engineers. They know they're better than most engineers in the world, including American or anywhere else, but they're not quite sure about that creativity. And that's where I know that they have that potential. So we just need to nurture it by giving them the chance to a little bit of safety ground, so they would brainstorm, think about ideas. I would give them encouragement. When they fail, they don't get punished, but rather rewarded for the lessons learned. And I think in that kind of environment, soon we'll see a lot of innovation. And certainly at Microsoft Research, that's also been the case, although that's more of an academic research institution. So I think there are enough existence proofs that I think we'll see a lot of innovation coming out of universities, multinationals in China.
Michael, while Chinese students and professionals can learn about leadership from Americans and American companies, what can Americans and American companies learn from the Chinese?
Great question. Again, China is very relational. There's, if you're looking for people who have high EQ, China's a great place to look. People are very aware of what's happening around them. I've also enjoyed working with Chinese managers to do things fast. The speed is very highly valued in China. I've learned a tremendous amount working with Chinese entrepreneurs, Chinese suppliers, Chinese customers about speed as a competitive weapon. So that's been a tremendous amount of learning for me.
Thank you. Jia-Bin, what about leveraging talent away from Tier 1 cities? How deep are the resources away from the coastal areas?
Definitely the Tier 1 city like Beijing, like Shanghai, like Guangzhou, they have better resources compared with Tier 2 and Tier 3, or even Tier 5 cities. But in China, like Microsoft, like Cisco, and also the state government, they started to provide some tools for people to do distance learning. And for Cisco and Microsoft, they provide the programs available for the government and also for some training institutions and for universities. They can use that to get over the distance problems. And it's getting very popular there. Especially probably you cannot imagine that the publication speed in China, they probably only take less than 3 days. They can translate